The sun rose slowly over the alien landscape of Zalara, casting long purple shadows across the curved architecture of the capital city. Sam Watkins stood at the window of his quarters in the human embassy, taking in the sight. After 3 weeks, on this planet he still found it hard to believe he was really here, breathing air that had never known human lungs before this year. Sam ran a hand through his short brown hair, still damp from the shower. At 42, he had spent most of his adult life as a Marine, then as a private security consultant after retirement. When the United Terran government had put out the call for experienced security personnel to staff the first human embassies in alien territory, Sam had signed up immediately. Adventure, purpose, and honestly an escape from the emptiness of his apartment back in Arizona since the divorce. The Durathi had been the first alien species to make contact with Earth 3 years ago. Their ships had appeared suddenly in orbit, broadcasting messages of peace in nearly perfect English, Spanish, Mandarin, and a dozen other human languages. The six-limbed feline aliens had studied humanity for decades before deciding we were safe to approach. A soft chime sounded, alerting him that it was time for his morning briefing. Sam straightened his dark blue uniform and headed down the curved hallway toward the embassy's operations center. "Morning, Chief," called Frank Kelly, his second-in-command. The younger man was bent over a holographic display reviewing security protocols. "Sleep okay? The air processors in Residential Wing B are still making that whistling noise." "I'm in Wing A," Sam reminded him. "But no, didn't sleep much. Still getting used to the 30-hour days here." Ambassador Lisa Rivera looked up from her desk as Sam entered the main operations room. "Good morning, Officer Watkins. We have a busy day ahead. The Durathi Council has invited us to observe their Spring Nurturing Festival tomorrow, and I need your team to complete a security assessment today." Sam nodded. "What's this festival about?" The ambassador's eyes lit up. She had been an anthropologist before joining the diplomatic corps, and she loved explaining Durathi culture. "It's their most important annual celebration. Durathi families bring their cubs to the central gardens to learn about their ancestors and participate in communal, nurturing activities. It's essentially how they maintain their cultural knowledge across generations." "And they're okay with us watching?" Sam asked. "More than okay. They're eager to share it with us." The Durathi evolved without significant predators on their world. They never developed the kind of territorial defensiveness that shaped human evolution. They're genuinely curious about us. Sam found this hard to believe despite the briefings. In his experience, every intelligent species had to have some capacity for violence, or something else would have eaten them before they developed technology. But the scientists insisted that the Durathi had evolved through extreme cooperation rather than competition. They were physically fragile by human standards, but their social structures were incredibly complex and stable. After the briefing, Sam headed out for his daily patrol of the embassy grounds. The building itself was a gift from the Durathi, designed to approximate human architectural preferences while incorporating local materials and technology. It looked like someone had tried to recreate a classical Earth embassy using liquid silver that had frozen in mid-pour. As he walked the perimeter, Sam noticed a small group of Durathi adults and cubs gathering near the public entrance to the Cultural Exchange Center. Their bodies resembled Earth cats if cats had 6 limbs, stood upright on their hind legs, and grew to nearly 6 feet tall. Their fur came in shades of blue and purple, with distinctive patterns unique to each individual. The cubs were about half the size of the adults, with proportionally larger eyes and ears. Sam approached, giving the traditional Durathi greeting, right hand open at chest level, palm up. "Good morning," he said in carefully practiced Durathi. His translator implant helped, but he was trying to learn the basics himself. The adult Durathi returned the gesture, their large eyes blinking slowly in what Sam had learned was a sign of pleasure. "Greetings, human Sam," said one whose fur was deep indigo with silver markings. "We bring young ones for cultural exchange hour. Is correct time?" Sam checked his wrist device. "You're a bit early, but that's fine. The center should be open. I can escort you in." The cubs stared at Sam with undisguised fascination. One of them, braver than the rest, broke from the group and approached him directly. "You have only 4 limbs," the cub observed, speaking slowly as if concerned Sam might not understand. "Does this make you sad?" Sam couldn't help smiling. "No, humans have always had 4 limbs. We don't know any different." "But how do you climb properly? Or make music shapes?" The cub demonstrated by intertwining its middle limbs in a complex pattern. "We manage in our own way," Sam said, charmed by the cub's concern. "We've developed tools to help us do things we can't do naturally." He led the group into the Cultural Exchange Center, where displays of human art, music, and history had been set up. The cubs immediately scattered to examine everything, their movements quick and graceful. Sam watched them with an unexpected pang of longing. His own kids were grown now, Abby in college and Ryan in high school, and he rarely saw them since moving across the country after the divorce. Narration, the Durathi scientist assigned as the embassy's cultural liaison, approached Sam as he stood watching the cubs. Like most Durathi, she moved with fluid grace, her 6 limbs working in perfect coordination. "They are drawn to you," Narration observed. "Durathi cubs recognize nurturing spirits in any form. I'm just doing my job," Sam said, slightly embarrassed. "No," Narration insisted gently. "They sense more. You have been a parent, yes? You carry that energy still." Before Sam could respond, his communication device buzzed. He excused himself and stepped aside to answer. "Watkins here." "Sir," Frank's voice came through, tense and low. "We've got a situation. 3 Craxan diplomats just arrived, demanding an immediate meeting with Ambassador Rivera." Sam frowned. The Craxan were a relatively new player in this sector, a reptilian species known for their aggressive expansion. From the few interactions humans had with them, they seemed to operate on pure self-interest. "What do they want?" Sam asked. "They're not saying. But our Durathi contacts seem unusually nervous about their presence. Something about resource claims in nearby systems." "I'll be right there," Sam said, already heading for the door. He paused, to tell Narration he had to leave. As he walked away, one of the cubs called out to him. "Human Sam, will you return for story sharing time? You promised to tell about Earth oceans." Sam smiled despite his concern about the Craxan. "I'll try my best." He promised, meaning it, somehow. In just 3 weeks he'd grown attached to these gentle aliens and their curious young. Little did he know that within 24 hours, his actions would forever change how the galaxy viewed humanity, and he would earn a place in Durathi, legend that would be remembered for generations to come. The meeting with the Craxan diplomats lasted 3 hours. Sam stood at attention behind Ambassador Rivera the entire time, watching the 3 reptilian aliens with careful eyes. The Craxan were tall, nearly 7 feet, with scaled skin in shades of red and orange. Their eyes were narrow slits and they moved with a stiff, deliberate precision that Sam's military training recognized as a sign of constant readiness for conflict. "We simply wish to establish mining operations in the Veltar asteroid belt," said the lead Craxan, who had introduced himself as Sector Commander Drex. "The Durathi have no claim to these resources. They do not even use them. The Veltar system falls under Durathi protection according to Galactic Council maps," Ambassador Rivera replied calmly. "While humans are still new to galactic politics, we respect established boundaries." Drex made a harsh clicking sound that the translator didn't interpret. Sam guessed it was a sign of frustration. "The Durathi are weak. They claim systems they cannot defend and do not use," Drex said. "We expected humans to be more practical." After the Craxan finally left, Ambassador Rivera sighed heavily. "That went about as well as expected. They're testing us, seeing if we'll align with them, or with the Durathi." "What's our official position?" Sam asked. "Neutral for now. Earth wants good relations with all species. But unofficially," she lowered her voice, "we trust the Durathi a lot more than we trust the Craxan. Their expansion has been aggressive, and 3 smaller species have already lost territory to them in the past decade." The next morning brought the Spring Nurturing Festival. The embassy staff was invited to observe from a designated area in the central gardens of the capital city. Sam coordinated security, posting his team at strategic points around the human delegation. The gardens were beautiful, filled with plants in colors Sam had never seen on Earth. Trees with silver leaves that chimed softly in the breeze, flowers that seemed to glow from within, and grass in deep shades of blue. Thousands of Dorothi families gathered, the adults forming large circles with the cubs in the center. Narration stood beside Sam, explaining the ceremony. Each circle represents a family line. The elders share knowledge through stories and songs. The cubs learn our history, science, and ethics this way. No books or computers, Sam asked. Those come later. The first teachings must be given directly, with emotion and context that technology cannot provide, Narration explained. Her fur rippled in patterns that Sam had learned indicated deep contentment. This is how we have maintained peace for 20,000 years. Each generation learns the mistakes of the past and the wisdom earned through them. Sam noticed something odd at the edge of his vision. 3 Kraxen, not in diplomatic attire but wearing what looked like civilian clothes, were moving through the crowd. They seemed to be watching the cubs with unusual interest. Are the Kraxen normally invited to these ceremonies? Sam asked quietly. Narration followed his gaze. All species are welcome to observe from the visitor areas, but it is unusual for Kraxen to show interest in our cultural practices. Sam's instincts, honed by years in conflict zones, sent warning signals up his spine. He keyed his communication device. Frank, keep an eye on those Kraxen moving along the eastern edge of the gathering. Something feels off. Copy that, Frank replied in his ear. I see them. Throughout the day, Sam noticed the Kraxen taking recordings of the event, particularly focusing on areas with the youngest cubs. By evening, as the festival wound down and families began to leave, Sam had almost convinced himself he was being paranoid. The Kraxen had done nothing wrong. He was walking back to the embassy when he heard it, a high-pitched sound of distress that his translator didn't catch, but that he recognized instinctively as the cry of a frightened young one. Sam changed direction immediately, moving toward a narrow side street between 2 curved Dorothi buildings. The scene that greeted him made his blood run cold. 3 Kraxen, the same ones he had noticed earlier, had cornered 5 Dorothi cubs who had apparently wandered away from their parents. The cubs were huddled together, their fur standing on end in fear. One of the Kraxen held some kind of net, while another operated a small hovering transport container. What's going on here? Sam demanded, stepping into the alley. The Kraxen turned, clearly surprised by his appearance. The leader recovered quickly. This is not your concern, human. These cubs were lost. We are returning them to the festival grounds. Sam looked at the cubs, then at the container, which was clearly designed for transporting cargo, not people. I don't think so. Those cubs are terrified of you. The smallest cub, seeing Sam, called out in shaky English. Human Sam, help! They say they will take us away. The Kraxen hissed in annoyance. You are interfering in matters beyond your authority, human. We have permits to collect biological specimens from this world. Children aren't specimens, Sam said, his voice dangerously quiet. He reached slowly for his communication device, but the lead Kraxen moved with surprising speed, drawing a weapon that looked like a short metal rod. No calls, the Kraxen said. This is a simple business transaction. The galaxy has high demand for exotic pets, and Dorothi cubs command excellent prices. They are quite tame and live long lives in captivity. Sam felt something shift inside. Him, a cold fury taking hold. Put the weapon down and step away from the cubs, now. The 3 Kraxen looked at each other, then burst into harsh laughter. You are alone, human, and we are 3. You have no weapons. The Dorothi signed non-aggression, pacts with all spacefaring species, so they will not intervene with force even if you call them. The leader stepped closer to Sam, towering over him. Be smart. Walk away. File a complaint with your embassy if you must. By the time it reaches the Galactic Council, these cubs will be sold and distributed across 3 star systems. Sam had faced down threats before, in deserts and jungles on Earth, in places where backup was hours away and survival depended on quick thinking and decisive action. But this was different. These weren't enemy combatants, they were criminals threatening children. "Last chance," Sam said quietly. "Let the cubs go." The Kraxan leader raised his weapon. "I think not, but we will ensure you are not a problem." He nodded to his companions. "Restrain him. We'll take him too. Some collectors might find a human interesting." As the other two Kraxan moved toward him, Sam made his decision. Diplomat or not, he could not stand by while children were trafficked. What happened next would change not only his life but the galaxy's understanding of humans forever. One of the Kraxan reached for him, clawed hand extending toward Sam's arm. Sam moved, decades of training taking over, striking with precision and force that surprised the alien. The Kraxan stumbled back, green blood trickling from its snout. "What?" the leader began, but didn't finish as Sam charged forward. The cubs watched with wide eyes as the lone human faced three Kraxan in the dim light of the alley. What they witnessed would become legend across their world. A story of fury and protection that would be told at countless future festivals. And in orbit above Zalara, unaware of the confrontation below, a Kraxan ship prepared to receive its illegal cargo. Its crew not realizing they were about to learn a painful lesson about humanity that the galaxy would never forget. Time seemed to slow down for Sam as he faced the three Kraxan. His mind calculated odds and options with the cold precision that had kept him alive through 2 wars on Earth. The aliens were bigger, stronger, and had natural armor in their scaled skin. They also had weapons. Sam had only his training, his bare hands, and an overwhelming need to protect the 5 terrified cubs huddled against the wall. The first Kraxan lunged at him, clawed hands reaching for his throat. Sam sidestepped, grabbed the alien's extended arm, and used the Kraxan's own momentum to slam him face first into the alley wall. The impact made a sickening crack, and the Kraxan slumped to the ground, dazed, but not unconscious. "You'll regret that, human," the leader snarled, raising his weapon. A blue light glowed at its tip. Sam didn't wait to find out what the weapon did. He kicked a metal trash container toward the Kraxan, forcing him to dodge. In that split second, Sam closed the distance and struck the alien's wrist with the edge of his hand. The weapon clattered to the ground. The third Kraxan circled behind Sam, trying to trap him between them. Sam was keenly aware of the cubs watching, their wide eyes filled with fear and something else. Hope. One of the cubs had activated some kind of small device that glowed softly in the growing darkness. The leader recovered quickly, showing fighting skills that suggested military training. He threw a series of strikes that Sam barely avoided, each one powerful enough to break bones. Sam countered with quick jabs to vulnerable points, the throat, eyes, joints, using the fighting style he had developed that relied on precision rather than brute force. "You fight well for a species so small," the Kraxan leader hissed through bloodied teeth. Sam didn't waste breath responding. The third Kraxan attacked from behind, landing a crushing blow to Sam's back that sent him stumbling forward. Pain shot through his body, but he rolled with the momentum, coming back to his feet in a fighting stance. The first Kraxan had recovered now, and Sam faced all 3 again. His chances were slim, but surrender wasn't an option. Not with those cubs depending on him. The leader reached into his belt and pulled out a second weapon, a wicked-looking blade that gleamed in the dim light. "Enough games. We'll take you apart and explain to the buyers that the merchandise was damaged in transit. What happened next would later be analyzed by military experts from a dozen species." The Kraxan leader made a critical mistake. He glanced at the cubs and said, "Perhaps we'll start with the smallest one. Show you what happens when prey species don't know their place." Something changed in Sam's eyes. Witnesses would later describe it as watching a switch flip from human to something primal and terrifying. Sam's controlled fighting technique transformed into something else entirely. Raw fury channeled through years of combat training. He moved with a speed that shocked the Kraxan, crossing the distance to the leader before the alien could react. The knife slashed Sam's arm, but he didn't seem to notice the pain. He struck the Kraxan with a series of devastating blows that sent the larger alien crashing to the ground. The other 2 attacked together, but Sam fought with a desperate intensity that overwhelmed them. He used everything around him: Walls, garbage containers, even a broken pipe he snatched from the ground. Within minutes, all three Kraxen lay on the ground, groaning in pain, their weapons scattered around them. Sam stood, over them, breathing hard, blood running from cuts on his face and arm. The fury slowly faded from his eyes as he turned to the cubs who were watching him with expressions of wonder. "Are you all okay?" he asked softly, kneeling down to their level despite the pain that shot through his ribs with every breath. The smallest cub, the one who had recognized him earlier, stepped forward cautiously. "You fought for us. No one fights for Dorothi. We are peaceful. We do not know fighting." "Where I come from, we protect children," Sam said simply. "All children, no matter what species." The device that one of the cubs had activated suddenly projected a small hologram. Sam realized it was a communication device, and the cubs had broadcast the entire fight. On the tiny display, he could see the shocked face of a Dorothi adult, presumably one of their parents. "Help is coming," the cub said, pointing to the device. "Many saw what happened. Many are coming." Sam nodded, then turned back to the Kraxen who were beginning to stir. He quickly used their own restraints to secure them, ignoring the burning pain in his injured arm. Within minutes, the alley filled with Dorothi adults, their normally calm faces showing expressions of shock and distress. Among them was Narration, who rushed to Sam's side. "You are injured," she said, her voice shaking as she examined his wounds. "What you did. We have never seen such a thing." Sam winced as she touched a particularly deep cut. "Couldn't let them take the cubs." More figures appeared at the entrance to the alley. Human security personnel from the embassy, led by Frank, who took in the scene with a professional's eye. "Damn, boss," Frank said, kneeling beside Sam. "You took down 3 Kraxen by yourself? That's not supposed to be possible." Embassy medical staff pushed through the crowd, bringing equipment to treat Sam's injuries. As they worked on him, Sam noticed something strange. The Dorothi adults had formed a circle around him and the cubs, and they were doing something he'd never seen before. They were touching their foreheads to the ground in his direction, all 6 limbs folded beneath them. "What are they doing?" Sam asked Narration weakly as the medical team injected him with painkillers. "There is no word in your language," Narration said, her eyes shimmering with emotion. "The closest meaning would be, honoring the protector. Sam, you must understand. In our entire history, no Dorothi has ever witnessed such an act of protection through force. We have no violence in our nature. What you did for these cubs, it changes everything." As the painkillers took effect, Sam began to realize the magnitude of what had happened. This wasn't just about saving 5 cubs. He had revealed something about humanity to an entire alien civilization, and beyond, given how quickly information spread in the galactic community. The last thing Sam saw before the medical team lifted him onto a stretcher was the small cub stepping forward again, reaching out a tiny 6-fingered hand to touch his. "Human Sam," the cub said solemnly, "you are now part of Dorothy's story songs. Forever." Then the painkillers pulled him into darkness, as news of what had happened in that alley began to spread across the planet and into the stars beyond. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humans, something that would change interstellar relations forever. Sam woke up in the embassy medical facility. The room was quiet except for the soft beeping of medical equipment. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting warm patterns on the white walls. He tried to sit up and immediately regretted it, as pain shot through his body. "Easy there," said Dr. Alice Powell, the embassy's chief medical officer. She gently pushed him back onto the bed. "You've got 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, multiple lacerations, and more bruises than I can count. You need to rest." "The cubs?" Sam asked, his voice rough. "All safe and back with their families," Dr. Powell assured him. "But Sam, you've caused quite a stir. That recording of your fight has spread across half the galaxy in the last 12 hours. Before Sam could respond, the door slid open and Ambassador Rivera walked in. Her face was a mix of concern and something else Sam couldn't quite read. Respect, maybe, or awe. "Officer Watkins," she said formally, then softened. "Sam, how are you feeling?" Like I picked a fight with 3 Kraxen, he said with a weak smile. The ambassador didn't return the smile. That's exactly what you did. And now we're dealing with the diplomatic fallout. She paused, then added, though not the kind you might expect. She activated a tablet and turned it so Sam could see. On the screen was a news feed showing his fight with the Kraxen, captured from multiple angles by the Cub's communication device. The footage was playing on what appeared to be an alien news broadcast. The Cubs were broadcasting the entire thing, Ambassador Rivera explained. The Durathi version of social media picked it up immediately, and from there it spread to Galactic news networks. You've become something of a celebrity overnight. Sam watched a few seconds of the footage with growing discomfort. Seeing himself through an outside perspective was strange. The human on the screen moved with a controlled fury that seemed almost inhuman, even to him. Am I in trouble? He asked finally. Ambassador Rivera sighed. That's complicated. The Kraxon ambassador is demanding your arrest for assaulting their citizens. However, the evidence that those particular Kraxen were engaged in attempted trafficking is overwhelming. The Galactic Council has launched an investigation into wider Kraxen involvement in similar operations throughout the sector. She set the tablet down. But that's not the most significant outcome of your actions. What do you mean? The Durathi High Council has requested an emergency meeting with Earth's representatives. They want to discuss a formal protection agreement. Several other species have made similar requests in the last few hours. Sam blinked in surprise. Because of what I did? Precisely because of what you did. The ambassador's voice was serious. Sam, you have to understand, many species in the galactic community have evolved without Earth's particular blend of protective instincts and capacity for violence. What you showed them was something entirely new. A nurse entered with medication. For Sam, interrupting their conversation. After she left, Dr. Powell insisted that Sam needed rest, and the ambassador promised to update him later. For the next 3 days, Sam drifted in and out of sleep as his body healed. Whenever he was awake, he received a steady stream of visitors. Frank brought updates from the security team. Narration came daily, sometimes accompanied by other Durathi officials who simply wanted to meet him. On the 4th day, Sam was sitting up in bed when a special visitor arrived. It was the smallest of the cubs he had rescued, accompanied by what appeared to be its parents. Human Sam, the cub said solemnly. I am Kiri. These are my parents, Teelan and Mira. We have come to give thanks. Sam nodded awkwardly. I'm glad. You're safe, Kiri. The adult named Teelan stepped forward. What you did for our child cannot be repaid. The Durathi have no tradition of fighting, no concept of using force to protect. We have always relied on agreements and understanding. We now see this was naive, added Mira. There are species who do not honor agreements. We knew this, but did not wish to acknowledge what it meant for our safety. Kiri approached Sam's bed without fear. I have been chosen to present you with this. The cub held out a small object that gleamed silver in the light. Sam took it carefully. It was a pendant of some kind, shaped like a stylized 6-pointed star. This is the highest honor in Durathi culture, Teelan explained. It marks you as a guardian of the family circles. No non-Durathi has ever received this distinction. Sam was speechless. He looked at the pendant, then at the earnest faces of the Durathi family. Thank you, he said finally. I'm honored. But I just did what any human would do when children are in danger. That is what makes your species so remarkable to us, Mira said. What came naturally to you is revolutionary to our understanding of protection. After the Durathi left, Sam had more visitors, this time from the human government. 2 officials in formal attire arrived, introducing themselves as representatives from Earth's Department of Interstellar Relations. Officer Watkins, said the older man, whose name tag read, Director Alan Frost. Your actions have created quite a situation for Earth diplomacy. Sam tensed, expecting a reprimand, but instead, the director continued with what almost looked like admiration. In the span of one evening, you've managed to accomplish what months of formal diplomacy couldn't. You've positioned humanity as potential guardians in a galaxy that desperately needs them. The second official, a woman named Sonia Chen, added, "The footage of your fight has been analyzed by military strategists from a dozen species. Many are reconsidering their assessment of human capabilities." "Is that good or bad?" Sam asked. Director Frost smiled slightly. "Both. Some species are frightened by what they saw. A physically unimpressive species capable of defeating multiple stronger opponents through sheer protective rage. Others are seeking alliance with precisely that capacity in mind. The Galactic Council is convening a special session next week," Sonia explained. "They're considering creating a new classification for humanity, something like guardian species. It would be unprecedented." Before Sam could respond, his communication device chimed. It was Frank, his voice urgent. "Boss, you need to see this. Turning on your room display now." The large screen on the wall activated, showing a news broadcast. A Kraxan ship was visible, surrounded by smaller vessels of various designs. "The Kraxan Imperium has withdrawn their diplomatic mission from Durathi space," the announcer was saying. "Sources indicate this follows the discovery of extensive trafficking operations run by Kraxan officials in multiple sectors. The Galactic Council has imposed severe sanctions on the Imperium pending a full investigation." The image changed to show the now famous footage of Sam fighting the Kraxan, with a caption that read, "Human protection, a new force in galactic politics?" Sam stared at the screen, then at the Durathi pendant in his hand, and finally at the Earth officials watching him expectantly. In trying to save 5 alien children, he had inadvertently changed humanity's place in the galaxy forever. "So what happens now?" he asked quietly. Director Frost's expression was serious. "Now, Officer Watkins, you get better. Because once you're healed, Earth needs you to help us navigate this new role you've created for humanity. The galaxy is watching, and they want to know if all humans are like Sam Watkins." 6 months had passed since the night in the alley. Sam stood by the large window in his new office, looking out at the sprawling Durathi capital city. The silver pendant from the Durathi hung around his neck, catching the light as he turned to review the latest reports on his desk. His title now was Human Durathi Protection Coordinator, a position created specifically for him after the events that had become known across the galaxy simply as the Alley Incident. His job was to establish and oversee a new joint protection program, teaching Durathi defensive tactics while helping humans understand Durathi culture and values. There was a soft chime at his door. "Come in," Sam called. Narration entered, her blue-purple fur shimmering in the sunlight. In the months they had worked together, Sam had learned to read Durathi expressions well. Today, Narine's ear positions and fur patterns showed excitement. "The first class has completed their training," she announced. 20 Durathi and 15 humans certified as the first official protection unit. Sam smiled. "Any problems?" "None that could not be solved through understanding," Narine replied. "The humans had to learn to be less aggressive in their approach, while our people had to overcome their reluctance to even consider physical intervention. But together, they have found balance." Sam picked up a tablet showing the training results. The program had been challenging to design. How do you teach a naturally peaceful species the basics of defense without changing their fundamental nature? The solution had been to focus on protection rather than combat, emphasizing shields rather than swords, as one of his human trainees had put it. "The Galactic Council representatives will arrive tomorrow for the certification ceremony," Narine reminded him. "It will be the formal recognition of the new Guardian species classification." Sam nodded. That designation had been controversial among some species, particularly those with militaristic histories who viewed humans with new wariness. But for many of the galaxy's peaceful species, humanity represented something they had never had before, allies who could and would fight to protect them when diplomatic measures failed. "Has there been any update on the Kraxan situation?" Sam asked. Narine's ears flattened slightly, a sign of concern. "Their ships have withdrawn from this sector. Completely. The sanctions have severely impacted their economy, but intelligence suggests they are rebuilding their forces in their home systems. They'll be back eventually, Sam said quietly. Not right away, but someday. And next time, they'll be prepared for humans. And we will be prepared for them, Nareen replied with unusual firmness for a Darathi. Thanks to you, Sam Watkins. Later that afternoon, Sam visited the Cultural Exchange Center where his journey had begun. It had expanded significantly, now occupying an entire building near the embassy. Inside, human and Darathi children played together while adults from both species shared knowledge and stories. In one corner, Sam spotted a familiar small figure. Kiri had grown several inches in the past 6 months, but was still smaller than the other cubs of similar age. The young Darathi was showing a group of human children how to create the complex hand patterns that form Darathi music shapes. When Kiri saw Sam, the cub's ears perked up in joy. Human Sam, come see what we are learning. Sam joined the circle of children. The human kids, mostly sons and daughters of embassy staff, greeted him with excitement. To them, he was something of a hero, though Sam always felt uncomfortable with that designation. We're learning to make peace patterns, one human girl explained, trying to twist her fingers into the same shape Kiri was demonstrating. It's hard with only 4 limbs, but Kiri is teaching us ways to adapt it. And they are teaching me human games, Kiri added enthusiastically. Did you know humans play by pretending to chase each other? It was scary at first, but now I understand. It's how you practice protective skills. Sam watched as the children returned to their activities, human and Darathi working together to overcome their physical and cultural differences. This, he thought, was the real success story, not his fight in the alley, but what had grown from it. His communicator buzzed with a message from Frank, who now headed security at the expanded human embassy. Turn on news channel. Announcement from Earth. Sam found a nearby screen and activated it. The Earth ambassador to the Galactic Council was speaking from a podium adorned with both Earth and Council symbols. Today marks a historic expansion of the Human Darathi Protection Initiative, the ambassador was saying. 5 additional species have signed agreements to join the program, with human protection units to be stationed in their territories within the month. This represents a new chapter in galactic cooperation. The camera showed representatives from various alien species standing together: the tall, willowy Alani, the short, sturdy Vox, the crystalline Trell, and others Sam recognized from briefings. All were species that, like the Darathi, had evolved with minimal aggression and now faced threats in an increasingly complex galaxy. As Sam watched, he felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Ambassador Rivera, who had become a good friend. Over the months. Your action that night changed everything, Sam, she said quietly. Not just for the Darathi, but for humanity's place in the stars. I just did what seemed right, Sam replied, embarrassed as always by the recognition. That's exactly the point, the ambassador said. What came naturally to you, the instinct to protect children regardless of species, has become the foundation of a new type of interstellar relationship. Humanity spent centuries worrying that our capacity for violence would make us outcasts among more peaceful, star-faring civilizations. Instead, it's become our greatest diplomatic asset. That evening, a formal reception was held to welcome the Galactic Council representatives. The Grand Hall of the Darathi Council building was filled with diplomats from dozens of species. Sam, uncomfortable in his dress uniform, stood to the side, watching the diverse gathering with wonder. Just a year ago, humans had been newcomers to the galactic community, viewed with curiosity but little real interest. Suddenly the crowd parted slightly, and Sam saw a small procession approaching him. Leading it was Kiri, now dressed in formal Darathi attire, followed by members of the Darathi High Council and representatives from the Galactic Council. Kiri stopped before Sam and spoke in a clear voice that carried through the hall. Human Sam Watkins, guardian of cubs, defender of the innocent. The United Species present here tonight ask you to accept the first Galactic Guardian Medal, created to honor those who protect the vulnerable across all worlds. A tall alien with silvery skin stepped forward, holding a case. Inside was a medallion. Unlike anything Sam had seen, it seemed to shift colors and patterns as it caught the light, somehow incorporating symbols from multiple species into one harmonious design. As the medallion was placed around his neck to join the Durathi pendant, Sam looked out at the assembled faces, human and alien, all watching with respect and, from many, gratitude. In that moment, he understood that his simple act of protection had revealed something profound about humanity's place among the stars. Humans were not the strongest, fastest, or most technologically advanced species in the galaxy. But they had something equally valuable, the instinct and will to stand between innocence and those who would harm it, regardless of species, regardless of risk. The galaxy had witnessed true fury that night in the alley. But more importantly, it had witnessed true protection. And in a universe of wonderful and terrible possibilities, perhaps that was exactly what was needed most.